I thought I was doing the right thing by stepping up for my late sister's kids, until I discovered the truth about her husband. Imagine preparing to take in two grieving children, only to learn their father had been hiding a secret that turned everything upside down. Now, my family thinks I'm heartless, but I feel like I've been pushed into an impossible corner. Am I really the villain here? Let's dive in. Here's how it all began. My name's Laura, and I'm 32 years old. My sister, Emily, was only 2 years older than me. We grew up inseparable, sharing clothes, secrets, and dreams about building big families. Emily married her college sweetheart, Mark, at 24. At first, he seemed like the kind of brother-in-law you'd hope for. Attentive, friendly, and always ready to help at family events. I never married or had kids of my own. Instead, I built a small but steady career as a freelance graphic designer. I rent a modest 2-bedroom apartment and volunteer at the community library on weekends. Emily used to tease me for living the single aunt life, but she also told me I was her rock. Emily and Mark had 2 children, Liam, 8, and Sophie, 5. I adored them. Every birthday, every holiday, every weekend they'd run to me for hugs. Emily always said if anything ever happened to her, she'd want me to be there for them. We never formalized that, but it was something she repeated often enough to stick in my head. Life felt stable and predictable. Emily's family lived only 20 minutes away, and we had Sunday dinners like clockwork. I thought I knew everything about my sister's life. But after a sudden car accident took Emily's life 6 months ago, I realized how little I truly knew, especially about her husband. Emily's death shattered our family. Mark was devastated, or at least, that's how he appeared. At the funeral, he clung to me, whispering how he couldn't do this alone. My parents, still grieving their eldest daughter, looked to me as the logical guardian for the kids. After all, I'd been their second mom for years. Mark suggested the idea 2 weeks after the funeral. Sitting in my kitchen, his hands shaking around a coffee mug, he said he wasn't coping and needed time to get his life together. He asked if I could temporarily take the kids in, maybe even adopt them permanently. My heart broke for Liam and Sophie. Without thinking too hard, I said yes to a trial period, and for the next month, the kids stayed with me. We built routines. Homework at the dining table, movie nights with popcorn, bedtime stories. They cried for their mom, but gradually found comfort in my apartment. Then strange things started happening. Late-night phone calls Mark would take outside my door when dropping off the kids. Letters arriving at my place addressed to someone else, but in Mark's handwriting. When I asked him about certain bills or medical records, he'd get cagey. The turning point came when Sophie had an asthma attack at school. I rushed to the hospital, only to be told that her insurance had lapsed months earlier, long before Emily died. When I called Mark for clarification, he panicked. That's when my gut told me something was very, very off. I began quietly digging. First, I reached out to one of Emily's old friends from college who'd hinted in the past that Mark wasn't as perfect as he seemed. She hesitated, but eventually told me to look into a separate family rumor. Separate family? I almost laughed. But then one evening, after putting the kids to bed, I opened Emily's old email account. She'd once shared the password when I helped her with taxes. In her drafts folder were unsent messages addressed to me. Messages about Mark. One read, "If anything happens to me, please don't trust Mark with the kids until you know everything." Another mentioned a woman named Claire, living 2 towns over, with a child close in age to Liam. I drove to the address Emily had written down. It turned out to be real. A woman answered the door holding a toddler. When I introduced myself, her face went pale. She admitted she'd been in a long-term relationship with Mark under a different name. He promised to leave his wife soon. It felt like my entire reality collapsed. Not only had Mark been cheating for years, but he also had another child, one he was supporting financially, while Emily was left scrambling for medical bills. When I confronted Mark, he didn't deny it. Instead, he tried to spin it as adult issues that didn't concern the kids. He said Emily had accepted his double life, which I found impossible to believe given her unsent emails. I told him point blank, I couldn't adopt Liam and Sophie without transparency and legal clarity. He exploded, accusing me of abandoning the children and punishing them for his mistakes. My parents echoed his outrage, insisting Emily would have wanted me to step up no matter what. But I felt like I was being set up. Mark still had legal custody. Adopting the kids would mean entangling myself financially with him, at least initially. And if his lies extended to debts or criminal behavior, I could be dragged down too. The confrontation came one rainy Thursday evening. Mark stormed into my apartment unannounced. demanding I sign guardianship papers his lawyer had prepared. Liam and Sophie were in the next room, listening. I refused. He started shouting, calling me selfish, saying I was destroying the only stability the kids had left. I calmly laid out what I discovered, his second family, the unpaid bills and Emily's unsent emails. His face drained of color. For the first time, he looked genuinely frightened, not just angry. He grabbed the papers back and muttered that I'd regret this. After he left, I held Liam and Sophie as they cried, confused and scared. I promised them I wasn't abandoning them, but that I needed to protect them properly. It was the hardest night of my life, choosing to fight instead of simply giving in, and since that night, Mark has cut off contact except through his lawyer. The kids are back with him now because I didn't have legal grounds to keep them, but I've filed for emergency guardianship citing neglect and fraud. The process is slow and grueling. My parents are furious, saying I've betrayed Emily's memory. They argue the kids don't care about Mark's mistakes and only need a loving home. Part of me agrees, and every night I replay their tearful faces wondering if I should have just signed the papers and figured out the rest later. But another part of me knows Emily tried to warn me. She wanted me to protect her kids, not walk blindly into Mark's chaos. I'm torn between my heart and my head, between doing what feels immediately comforting versus what's safest long term. So here I am, asking strangers, am I the villain for refusing to adopt my sister's kids after discovering her husband's secret? Or am I doing the right thing by stepping back until the truth comes out? What would you do in my place? Sign the papers and risk being trapped in Mark's mess, or hold back until the legal dust settles? Comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to Real Story Narratives for more intense true-to-life stories.